Hi, everyone, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Kemp FC podcast. So, as you can see, this is the first attempt at creating a podcast to encourage more conversations on women's football. In all honesty, we haven't named it yet, so we're going to call it Kemp FC's podcast for now. And for the first episode, this pilot is going to be with Mr. Ramji. So, he is our brand and partnerships lead at Kemp FC. Has been there all the way from the start, and we keep having conversations on women's football for countless number of hours. So we thought, why not make it into a podcast?
Right.
So for the first topic today, we're going to keep it very simple. We're going to talk about Kemp FC, obviously, but we're going to get a little bit more into the women's football scenario, Indian and global, right? So we're just going to explore women's football and explore Kemp FC with Mr. Ramji.
Hey guys, this is Ramji from Kemp FC. I take care of brand and partnership of Kemp FC. In fact, I was one of the guys who worked on developing the brand or evolving the brand right from the first day or the first pixel when you put the thought process together. So one of the founding members, and it's been quite an exciting 3 years for me in Kemp FC. But having said that, my experience in sports comes from motorsports. I've been associated with motorsports, professional motorcycle racing in India, and also a few attempts internationally also. With a passion and a dream to take an Indian to the World Championship has always been there. So I've always worked on it, and along the way, football came into my life, and it gave me the same amount of excitement or enjoyment or passion for this sport too. And then I took a plunge into this. When there was an opportunity. Uh, while yeah, I mean, football came to our lives because of our daughters who play football, specifically my daughter and the other daughters of other founder members. That's how it came together, and that's how we started. um,
Okay. So let's actually start from the beginning. What inspired the inception of Kemp FC, and how has the club evolved since its foundation?
well, I think it's this story has been mentioned many a time. I mean, not just in other podcasts or interviews or interactions with parents or sponsors or anybody who we introduced the club to. But it was quite a unique and interesting journey for us because we were all parents of footballers who were playing in the A division, and then all these players won the A division, they didn't know where to head to because their current club was not very clear of what they're going to pursue as a super division club or where they're going to head. So hence we were a little concerned and worried about the team falling apart or breaking the talent pool together, which we had. So the parents came together, and the first initial thought was, let's start a super division team. We don't know anything about it. We didn't know what to do, but we did manage the A division team also. I mean, although the club was owned by another person, we had a sizable contribution to the operations of the club, right from of course, taking them to practice, providing them nourishments during the matches, and setting up practice grounds and everything. So most of the coordination and operations were done by the parents. So it was a very good, tightly knit community. And when the opportunity came to start a club, then we said, okay, let's give it a shot. It was a very impulsive decision, not too planned. While some amount of discussion did happen, okay, we need to set up. We know that we want to do it, but we didn't know how we were going to do it, right? And that's when another club, super division club, was up for grabs, and someone who wanted to let go of the club license. And we said, hey, this is an opportunity which is coming our way, which we didn't expect, and we just took it up and rebranded it, and a lot of work went into the branding itself, but we rebranded it to to for sure to build a very hyper local football brand which didn't exist. I mean, most of the brands, except for BFC, I mean, if I specifically say is a hyper local brand, the rest of the brands were not very hyper local. But we want to build a very hyper local brand and very specifically for women's football, so that more people from Karnataka follow women's football. So these were the thought processes that went in, and uh, to our surprise, and we just drove what we had planned. We just drove. There was no uh, planning at any point of time. We wanted to keep our performance at the best, because we won the A division and we wanted to keep the same momentum going for the girls. Although few girls had moved out, couple of them had moved out, we just wanted to maintain the same momentum for the girls. So hence, um, we had the same focus, and the hunger to win was there, and hence our performance, we never dropped off going into a higher division. So we had the same momentum. But having said that, as a company, as the people involved, uh, we had put in a lot of effort in terms of doing certain things right. uh, while our main notion was itself is to close the gap in women's football, which we saw as parents, and operating a team from the sidelines. We did see a lot of gaps, and we said, okay, we need to do something different, and that's one reason which we came into it also. And hence, we wanted to do certain things right to make Kemp FC work the way we want women's football to work, right?
Got it.
So the whole direction was set, saying, okay, this is a women's football team should operate, perform, and behave, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I think
So,
that culture is what we try to inculcate into the system. And I think over the last 2.5 years, I believe that we have done certain things right, which has actually given us a lot of scope and a lot of interest from the fans, the players, a few sponsors, and for sure a lot more parents who think that there is a platform for their girls to play football in.
okay. So that sounds like a fantastic journey. Starting from scratch, making it an impulsive decision. And I know a lot of you came together through your daughters who played football together. So, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced or Kemp FC faced during its early days, and how did the team overcome them?
I think if you start a club from scratch, it's a very tough act to do. Uh, I would, in a million years, wouldn't have said, okay, wake up in the morning and say start a football club, right? Uh, s- when we say challenges that we met, it was very minimal, very small. Well, I'll come to the operational side challenges later. But when you start a club, there are so many attributes to it. In a way, we had a team already, so which we didn't have to run behind a team, right? We had a coaching structure already, and the parents were already operating a club. We had a mock session or a trial session for us before we actually got into started a super division club. So there was no roadblocks per se. Even as a federation, KSFA supported us a lot when we said we are coming in. I mean, they were pretty excited, is what we feel, that when we said, okay, six parents coming together and starting a club, they were also like, wow, there's something new happening. And they were very supportive, and they're still supportive of it. And we said, okay, we want to when but operationally, when you set up things, there are few new things that you need to connect. And when you need to find the right partners, you need to find the right equipments, you need to understand the technicalities of football, which as parents we were not ready yet from the technical. I mean, like I said, we had a coaching team which we were depending on thoroughly. And while the coaching team was an inspiration for us to start also, they also inspired us to, Mr. Sudhakar and Manish, who are running the A division team, inspired us to, take a plunge into this. uh, that part of it was not a trouble, while setting up the rest of the spectrum, where we say, okay, equipments needed, ground needed, all those logistics that we need to set up, or even presenting ourselves as a new club in Bangalore at a super division level and looking out for players, was a challenging task, because when you, as many of you know, and I by now I know that also many of you know, that the scouting market is a very unorganized, medium. And if you step, it's you step out there and say, hey, and ask, I want talent. If you raise your hand, you might get caught in the wrong system also, right? Because there are, unfortunately, there are players who are tied to a certain system that is not right for the sport, right? Where they don't have a choice but to go in the direction of where they are told to go, right? I wouldn't call it slavery. Yes, they are being given opportunity, but it is very bonded. It is, they don't have the freedom to explore football, which actually how a sport has to be done, or any sport. As long as you don't explore, and if you're confined within a pond, you're not going to know what's available out there. So we were little worried, or hesitant about that system when we got into it, and when we stepped out in the market, we did face a few, should I call them sharks? No, I shouldn't call them sharks, but but a few people who were ready to give us mercenaries, like our another
Okay.
director calls it, a few mercenaries, and for a price, right? And which we actually didn't like the way it went, right? But unfortunately, we did find a mid path, and we got a few talented players in our first year. That was a challenging task, and but that was, I would say, a learning process also for us, in terms of how to look talent, whom to speak to, what are the negotiations, what's an amateur contract, what's a professional contract. All these were learning, and the challenge was to learn fast, right? If you're slow, then your vision falls apart. So the challenge, not was, I think the challenge is to learn first. We're continuing to learn. Other than that, I think the whole other side of the platform, which is your federation, um, brands like Nivea, who have stood alongside, with the concept from day one. We started also, someone like a Nivea. For the first year, we did get a few sponsors who were very thrilled about this whole concept of what we are trying to do, and they were very happy that there's some kind of initiative is happening. So we did get on board a few sponsors for the first 2 seasons. I wouldn't call it. We don't feel it as a problem or challenges, because we really enjoyed the last 2.5 years of journey. So I wouldn't call them challenges, but it was a huge learning curve. The effort to learn those processes, from being a non-footballer, now the now having a confidence to talk about the technicalities of football, talk about formation, talk about, how a player should be evaluated. Yeah, that process, I mean, for most of us involved, it was the challenge, but I think we are getting there.
Okay, so I think in terms of, I really like how you put it as a learning curve, because any small challenge that comes down the way, if you take the best from it and learn from it and move forward, I think there's a lot that the sport has to offer. So you mentioned a lot about the scouting process, the way that you function. You said you wanted to do some certain things right. So what sets Kemp FC apart from other football clubs in India?
I think one thing which sets apart, and I think that which we spoke earlier during introduction also, is the six parents who came together. What we six bring to the table, I think 6 into 6, I mean, there are 12 of us, and each of us bring a different attribute to the table, a different mindset to the table, and also different expertise to the table. That is what is making this club rolling, and rolling in the right direction. Like I said, when we started, we really didn't expected it to, to evolve so fast in 3 years. And it's just that you cannot slow it down, right? It's a machine that you start and you say, okay, first year we'll go at full pace and next 5 years we'll slow down. And no, once you hit the pedal, it's gonna, right, it's gonna run. So the six of us actually, the six parents actually uh, have strong values in their own unique way. While in my experience, the most important thing for a sports, not a club, any sports business and sports company, is very important, is to build a strong, sustainable platform. You know, we can start. I mean, most of the sporting platforms start out of passion. Nobody comes into sports says, "Okay, I'm going to make $1 million next year." No, nobody comes with that focus. Everything in sports, most of the time, 90% of the time, when you start something in sport, it happens with a lot of passion. And when you are blinded by passion, you don't look at logic and mathematical numbers and commercial returns and all.
Yeah.
Having said that, one thing was very clear as part of our philosophy is to build a sustainable club, a sustainable platform, which should long and scale. Scalability is a very important aspect, and will scale for long. And you can only scale if you are going to build local talent. And so, hence, our philosophy, our whole thought process was to build local talent, right? And like I explained to you, the first time when we stepped out in the market to scout, we were pointed out in direction to get 10, 15 people from outside Karnataka, right? While football is universal and pan India, we want to support that. Our primary goal is to, a philosophy was to set up local talent, and hence, uh, if you need to set up local talent, you need to build a sustainable platform which can train young people and constantly set a pipeline, a cycle of creating, talent pool. So that was a very clear vision for us to, support and generate local talent. It is a very challenging process. Now we understand that, because everything comes at a cost, right? I mean, if you want to train one child, it comes with a cost. If you want to train 30 kids, it comes with a cost. It just is 30x more. Um, so that the philosophy was to build, uh, the a sustainable platform. Our philosophy also was, like I said, to build a hyper local club, which will be liked and followed by uh, local fans, very Karnataka specific fans. The celebrate Karnataka women's football was a true notion that we started this, and that's why the word Kemp came. And I think most of them know what Kemp is. Kempu means red in Kannada, and the character that you see within the logo is the letter K of in Kannada. So uh, you know all that. So, but I'm just reiterating it.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of local flavor that was induced into the brand itself. So fans were a uh, key attribute or a key thought process when we created the brand also, right? We didn't say, okay, let's go play football. No, we wanted to say how we can attract fans. That thought process was already there. So which means, so when I said we did a few things right, couple of these things were part of that. And if you have to build a sustainable platform, you cannot splurge. We need to be very clear on where you put your money in, right? There are so many sporting businesses which come, they splurge, you see them spike in couple of years, and then they don't exist, right? We are still pretty new and we still have to be careful about that. So that sustainability and economic sustainability and balance also has to be devised. So I think, again, like I said, the six parents, each of them bring an attribute or a expertise to the platform which balances the whole, you know uh, drive. And that's going to be a very, very uh, special element, or I wouldn't call it an element, a special, like finding the word. a special
Like an aspect, like a special aspect.
special aspect of the club on a longer run. I mean, if we sustain it for 10 years, and when we look back at this particular attribute, we will really be proud of that we were able to
Yeah,
do this because of the six parents who had different style of working, different way of
yeah.
thinking, and hence putting that bond together and binding the whole club together and taking it forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a few things that really resonated with me from what you said was about a cyclic building of talent, about building a sustainable club, and the fact that you're looking 10 years into the future and, looking to have that long of a legacy, I would say. So to achieve something as sustainable and as hyper local, to generate more local talent, you do need to pay attention to grassroots and youth initiatives, right? So, what role do grassroots initiatives and youth development play in Kemp FC's vision, and how do you nurture future talent?
So if you actually see, we when we started the club, right? I mean, there were a lot of people in the system. When I say system, other parents or other players playing in the system already, or clubs who are senior to us, who've been. They first thought, okay, these six people are doing just for the kids, right? A bunch of kids who have parents worthy enough or lucky enough to support them to continue their
Yeah,
football. That was the
yeah,
first image that we gave in the market, and nobody expected us to say, okay, uh, these people are really doing it for football, right?
yeah,
Everybody thought we were just doing it for our kids, right? But when we made the first statement of Kemp FC, when we first announced Kemp FC, we made a categorical announcement when we launched the brand that we are not in this just for our kids, and we are in this for a longer game, and we are in this for a much wider set of talent pool that we want to create. Okay, that is a statement. um, if you can pull it out and display it also. So
yeah,
we made that statement when we started, when we put this whole thing together. While we know as a sport also, uh, we are in sync that it's not a business. As a business, it's not something that we will see returns maybe as a talent pool development or as results in tournaments and participation in various in tournaments, or as a business to increase your revenues and profits. It is not Sports is not a business which will happen in 5 years or 6 years, and it's a very 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 long run, and you can't really define it like a product based business where you say, okay, this is my proof of concept, and proof of concept becomes go to market, and from go to market it becomes so many pieces I sell, and hence the revenue is so much. You can't define that, right? So we know it is a long run, and hence the vision has to be long. And I think I've mentioned this to you also in many of our discussions,
yeah,
that uh, everybody will keep doing. There'll be more teams coming, more clubs coming. It's just that we have to focus on what we need to do and what we need to drive with our vision. If we are clear about our vision, and if you hold on to that vision within the set guardrails and you carry it forward, it will reach somewhere. And when you reach that, and that's when you turn back and see, and you have done so much of transformation to the system, so much of touch points you have created, so much of people you have empowered, so much of players you have created. That process is what. So there is no destination per se, right? So I think there is due diligence that we will keep every 5 years, or every year you turn back and see, okay, if you turn every year, actually you will not find any result that satisfies you. It's going to be
yeah,
long term when you turn. So the building a sustainable platform was a vision, and so hence we create more talent, hence we empower more women through football, hence we create more touch points
yeah,
in India, in Karnataka, and across India,
yeah,
right? Hence, we participate in more tournaments, create more opportunities for players to play,
yeah,
create more opportunities. Hence, in turn, which will create a better brand value, and hence a better ROI as a business also. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a long run. So we have to prepare for the long haul, and that's what we are currently doing.
Okay. So when you say long haul, you also mean in terms of talent ID, scouting, talent development, and all. So can you take us through a few, I would say, initiatives in terms of grassroots development or academy? Can you take us through how the academy works and how exactly Kemp generates talent?
Uh, I would say initially, like I said, the whole inspiration was our coaches. They've been what we saw in them and we still see in them is the hunger to create talent. Okay, that's period. There is no two ways about it. Hunger to create talent, hunger to play good football. Okay, they want to play good football. It's not that okay, I also play football kind of thing. I want to make a differentiation in football. My players will make a difference in what they do, and they will play
Yeah.
different football. And that's the philosophy our coaches have, and we align and support that philosophy. That's what we are doing, right?
Yeah.
So when we started this, and after our first season, uh, it did strike us. And like I said, when we went for scouting, we are still short of players. We need so much of gap to be filled. And as we started to fill in the gap, our first thought process in any sport is to create a talent pool. So there are many clubs who have actually started as an academy and then became a club, right? Because they had the talent pool. So we
Yeah.
were, we were. It's not something new. There are clubs who started and then became academies also. So we are that side of it where we started a club, started playing match, and then realize okay, building talent pool as per our philosophy. These are the things that we need to do, and the first step was to set up the academy, right? While the first bridge or the first gap, first bridge that we built to fill a gap is to create a only girls football academy, right? For girls, because there were no football academies for girls, and that was a deterrent for many parents or even the players itself for them to step up
Yeah.
and say, okay, I want to play football. Let's play football. And
Yeah.
the outlook was football is still a boys' game or men's game. So how do we change that? Is to create a all women football academy. While that there are few academies which existed across the country, we supported women's football. I think there also it was a secondary platform. While their uh, main focus was the boys or men's training platform, and then it whatever was left was a women's platform. There was
Yeah.
nothing specific to okay only women football
Yeah.
academy. So we saw that there was a gap because we knew our kids what they faced, and not that they didn't play well because they played with boys or something, but how many parents will step up and say okay, I will put them to play along with boys? And it is a slight danger also, as from a physicality point of view might get injured. It is positive, it's got its positive and its negative. But having said that, this because this platform was not available, our academy thought process was right, and we initiated that academy thought process, right? While as the years passed by, 2 seasons, the third season, we saw the iterations. We started understanding the how we gain players, how we lose players, both at the academy and the consumption, which is at the club level. Um, so we def- we determined that we need to create a lot more pipeline than just the academy, right? Hence, we started looking at more
Yeah.
strategic partnership where there is, like I said in my previous answer, that there are people who hold on to talent and they only work for that talent. How do we open them up? How do we untie that bond and let them fly? I mean, visualize of birds flying away, right? How do we open the cage and make them play more football? So that is where we came up with an idea of creating this strategic partnership with clubs who were insecure to send their players out, right? How do we get on to a one-on-one, because we know now we know that how the football system works and how what level of insecurity, what level of um, gameplay happens in the scouting and transfers of players, right? But the only way to resolve that problem is to build an understanding, build a professional association, a partnership, which will give the confidence to the other person to give. So that was one pipeline that we created by tying up with certain clubs, where so very strategically clubs who don't play during that particular time when we play. So where we can exchange players. So we create those opportunities for player, and there are so many players who only play one tournament in their lives in the year in the season, because rest of the time, as per their coach, as per their mentors, as per their academy, wherever they are in, they are not supposed to go out, correct? Hence,
Yeah.
how do we bring them out was one more thought. That is the third thought. The
Okay.
fourth one for sure is to um, reach out to local Karnataka talents. How do we reach out to Karnataka talent was one. So again, we are starting talking to small academies and academies in tier two, tier three cities of Karnataka. How
Yeah.
do we engage them? How do we empower them and bring it? So that was one thing which we have been working on, and seems to be heading in the right direction, where people are more confident about. And to gain that confidence, obviously you need to behave good also in the market. So if you get a player, you need to release a player, and you need to be true to your words of talent development. And I think that is another uh, that is one of the good aspect, that the parents running the show, we still look them as kids who want more platforms, and hence we create that opportunity for them, make them consume the opportunity, and then step out and find more opportunities or go back to where they belong. So that kind of trust and a bond that we are creating with the players is also working. While our academy is in the process of expanding and identifying more talent, and more younger grassroots level talent. Grassroots is the way to go,
Yeah.
because if, for example, the players who were our players in the first season are already become very thin. So we have about three or four of them who play right now. While along the way, we have got a few other players also. But we have also, like I said, our coaches have put in great effort in developing new talent also, who are now currently in the A division. We have a B division which is getting ready, B division team, which is the grassroots level talent.
Yeah.
What's after that? So I think we need to look at the cyclic process of creating a talent is between 3 to 5 years before they even step into super division. Forget IWL. Right? It's going to be 3 years before they're confident enough to play super division. So which means you're looking at starting to work with the talent in the age group of 10 to 12, between 10 and 12, and they are ready to play, say, A division or a super division, which is pretty competitive in Bangalore, in Karnataka, right? Uh, and it'll take about 3 years for them to reach there. So we are working between 10 and 12 age group, so that by 15, 16, they are ready to play at a senior level, right? And that's the thought process. Instead of saying, okay, I will go get a 22-year-old, 23-year-old play every time I play. So our thought
Yeah.
was very clear of working with that under 10s, 10 to 12, uh, working with introducing at under 10s,
Yeah.
start working more tactical and technical aspect of it between 10 to 13, 10 to 12,
Yeah.
then bringing them into various divisions and
Yeah.
tournament opportunities to play. Unfortunately, there's no youth league for girls yet. We hope that turns around and comes around soon, so
Yeah.
which will create more opportunities.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what you said about creating a pipeline of talent and having these 3 or 4 year cycles in which you look at players is a very sustainable way in the long term, because you're not heavily reliant on one set of players, because you always know that there's somebody who's working a little bit younger than them who could probably be the next big talent in Bangalore, India, Karnataka, wherever it may be, right? So, what you also said is that you play in the B, A, and Super Division, and I don't think any other team in Karnataka is currently doing that. So, how did you come about setting three teams?
Oh, like I said, I wouldn't say that there are no teams playing currently, because there are teams who are caught up with the act, caught up with the
Okay.
idea and thought process,
You're
which
saying
is good.
pioneer in the process.
But I think which is good. I think, right. I mean, for us, when we put this together, we actually didn't again think from a business perspective at all, but we wanted to create opportunities, right? There was a season, the first season, when before we started Kemp, I remember uh, our players played about 60 matches, and hence they
Wow.
won the A division, right? In a year,
Okay.
a season. So girls playing 60 matches is like something unheard of, right? In a year. Because of the I mean, when I say 60 matches, not all 11 aside matches, all forms, 5 aside, 7 asides, school
And you're
matches.
talking about competitive matches, right? In tournament.
Competitive tournaments which they have participated in, not friendlies or this one, competitive tournaments, and they represented their club or a school or something. When we kept a record, we took a record of it. They played about 50, 60 matches in this year, and that's what transformed them into what they were, win the A division, and today, as you know, many of them are highlights of Karnataka football, right? I mean, people like Rivka or Arushi, Maitri, uh, Aruni, right? All these players, Gia, they all are players who are some of the best players in women's football in Karnataka, in the recent times, right? And the reason they transformed into that, because they played so many matches, right? So our philosophy is always is to play as many games, and not only just KW or not just A division. As a philosophy, as a club, that we always believed in playing more matches. And I mean, as you can see, I would have mentioned that many a times that creating opportunities to play more is always been our goal, and hence we decided, when there was a opportunity to play, when A division started, we said, okay, we need to create an A division platform, because we had a few girls who were ready to play A division, and KSFA was kind enough to align with that idea of saying, okay, we need little create more players. I mean, obviously, ultimately it'll create more women footballers in Karnataka and in the country. So they did come approve us of being starting an A division team. While again, when B division happened the next year, we said, okay, let's put a B division team. By the time we had built another young set of team who were ready to play B division, right? But having said all this, it was with a clear notion, like I said, to create that talent pool creation opportunity and playing opportunity for girls who otherwise will not get any other matches to play, right? I mean, if you're talking about, if you see, when we see the B division team, while some of the teams will still have women who are 18, 19 years old, because it's an open platform, we will be one of the teams who will, our average age will be 10 or 11 or something, you know under 13 mostly, right? Girls will be less than 13 in a B division team, and A division will always be, most of it will be in the age group, in the average age of 14, 13, 14. So which means we
Yeah.
have a clear idea of saying, okay, when they'll play super division when they are 15 or 16. So that process was set very at an early stage itself. uh, but thanks to KSFA, because of them accepting it, this thing is, and for us, it is not about winning an A division again and having two teams, three teams in super division. Trust me, it's a very difficult task to run two teams and all in a single division. So we would like to be in A division all the time and like to be in B division all the time. That was the acceptance or agreement also with KSFA, that even if we win A division, we will stay in A division only. So there will not be a Kemp juniors which will come into super division. You know,
Yeah.
that's a very clear thought process there.
Yeah. So I think if you're a viewer, you can also see the three logos of the teams on our backdrops, which is the Kemp Football Club, Kemp FC Juniors, and the Kemp FC Academy. So it's great to see a proper pipeline that's being set for young female footballers who are looking to make it big. Um, So, in the process of engaging in three teams, you had also mentioned earlier about a fan club and all these engagement with fans. So, I think even for me as a footballer in Bangalore, what caught my eye when Kemp was set up 2 years ago was the number of brands that actually came on board and how your social media engaged with all of them. So, Kemp FC from the start has been engaging with both local and regional brands and sponsors. So,
And
how
international also.
yeah, and international. Yeah, so you can tell us a little bit about that. But how important are these partnerships for the club, and how do they impact women's football as a whole?
Are you asking specifically about a sponsorship kind of a partnership and how
Yeah,
commercial?
so you can take us through how Kemp FC's sponsorship and partnership with regional brands and local brands, or like you said, international brands, has shaped the growth of the club. So you can give a little bit of an intro about the sponsorship itself and the impact that it had.
See, while, like I said, again, you start sports clubs or academies or sports ventures purely out of passion, put in all the money that is there in your pocket, take money out of your savings and put and start it. You need a support system that needs to compensate you in some way, support you in some way, and fund you in some ways, right? So these are three different aspects, um, which will help the clubs not only to uh, perform, but also have the confidence that there's going to be uh, there are people who are supporting your vision, are kind of aligned with your vision. It gives you confidence that okay, there's someone
Yeah.
who's listening to my story, there's someone who's listening to what I'm trying to do and appreciative of it. That's the most important thing when you start a sporting business or a sports platform, because it's in a country like India where academics is everything, right?
Yeah.
uh, and it's not that sport didn't exist in India, but sports existed, was at a very low priority, and we've seen that change or the shift happening over the last decade, that sports is coming to at least into the frame of thought process of as in everybody's life, as a fan, as a participant, or as a hobbyist. It's getting into everybody's life in some form or the other, which didn't exist. I mean, earlier, maybe when my in my days, if you played only what you played in your backyard, right? I mean, if you don't pursue it in any other way, it didn't matter. Okay, you didn't play. I mean, it didn't matter. There was no aspirational value to it. Over the years, that has changed, and because of that, sports has become a part of everybody's life in some form or the other, right? As a viewer, and the engagement with sports is a lot more. So it's very important to have that support system to someone come and say, "Hey, great, you guys are doing something interesting," right? And that gives a lot of confidence. That gives a lot of uh, boost. Let alone, like for example, when I spoke about this to Nivea, Nivea was with they were arms wide open and saying, "Okay, come, let's engage." We are very happy to support a women's platform. And the first season to have a partner like Nivea, which is so big in India as a football apparel company and sports equipment company. It was very proud for us to have an association, and which is that association still continues. They not only support our club, but they support our academy initiative. They support our tournaments that we conduct for women in the snowfall play. So they do come and partner in our issue. So that's the first uh, that's the first appreciation, I would say, that we got from Nivea from a brand. It said you guys are doing something great, right? So that was a very good partnership to get into. Then, of course, there were like-minded brands who were young. Plato was one brand, and there was an international partner who's into sports, also into motorsports, T-Pro Innovation. They are also big fans of women's football. You know how Japan loves football, right?
Yeah.
So they do enjoy football, and they do enjoy a lot more serious football. But when they said, and there also women's football is at a very top level. So it's not that this unknown, and for them to hear India is also trying to get into women's football in some way, and someone they know is doing it, they were open-heartedly ready to fund the whole initiation. So they were our main sponsors in the first year. So like that, we had many support system that came, and it was purely because of the excitement of something happening around women's football, right? And that's a positive sign, right? And it's very crucial that it continues. And uh, while yes, sport is sport, a brand which puts money in sport requires some kind of ROI. At this point of to your question, I think it's very important they also look at supporting uh, 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 a platform which is trying to create something out of it with true story and with a very with a very comprehensive approach. It's just not that we play football alone. It's with doing many things and creating multiple touch points, creating a holistic environment for women's football.
Okay. So I think in terms of your journey as a club, it's been very holistic, both in terms of looking at it as talent ID, but also looking at the business aspect of the club, looking at the sponsorships, support systems, etc. So how does Kemp FC function on a day-to-day basis? Could you take us through the silos at which Kemp FC functions? I would say like the social campaigns that you have, the CSR programs that you're looking forward to running, and how does the business end work? So yeah.
Uh, like I said, while we when we started it, we know it is going to be a tough task, but we didn't expect it to be as time consuming and as involving as it is now, because it's almost become uh, a daily routine for us to be in, at least spend 8 to 10 hours thinking of football and football business, to the extent
Yeah.
I've forgotten what I actually do in my primary, right? So because and when we started this, and like I said, it was very difficult for us to visualize this is how it is going to be. This is how much of effort which is required to doing what we are trying to achieve, right? So initially we also thought it was just football, playing football, right? Then when you got into this, then you're looking at setting up an academy to create talent pool, to create opportunity. Then you're looking at going and playing multiple tournaments. Then you're looking at creating more touch points for women football by creating opportunities. So one by one after the other, the ideas started coming up for us to implement new initiatives like No Foul Play Shield, like like you said, the juniors, the academy, creating more opportunities to play, creating more platforms to play. So it started evolving, and today we have a silo which will only focus on academy, right? We have a silo which is focusing now on technical staff development, that is your coach development. So that is one thought process which is going. So we are trying to set up initiatives on that ground also to give more knowledge to our coaches and more technology to our coaches also. So technology and talent, coach development is one silo that we are working on. You know about No Foul Play Shield already, which is create then the silo which at least we are playing about three tournaments, 3 times a year. We're creating tournaments or opportunity for corporate women and clubs and academies to play. We might extend that to schools also. So, but that's in pipeline. But having said that, that was created for a reason, so that we'll introduce football to more players. Then we went on to create community day, because we know football is nothing without community. So we created community day to bring in fans together, very specifically to enjoy women's football, right? That's something that you were involved or created directly, and you're working on it directly. So that was one, and the another one is a lot of effort goes in the back end also to see how the scouting happens, how do we structure uh, in getting players, and how do we set up those players for during the tournament? How do we keep them out? Was the upkeep of the players? How do we follow up with them on their injuries or their difficulties if they plays? So that will completely come under our CSR initiative also. So we are a CSR uh, applied company, and we will be ready for CSR, accepting CSR next year, from next year, next financial year, to be very specific. Um, Having said that, we do uh, have a very clear cut mandate of saying, okay, while we have completed certain aspects of our journey or achieved, I wouldn't say achieved, when I say we have started hitting targets and creating talent, like you said, we still have to work on empowering women through football, right? Okay, what's after football is one thought process which is running right now. So what happens to a player who plays for us or plays elsewhere? What happens to a player after the football career is over? How do we empower them so that more kids or young women who take football have the security that they will have a destination, right? Otherwise, sports is it doesn't have a sportsman or sports person doesn't have a proper destination. How do we are trying to define that destination of this is what you will settle in? It can be from commentary to photography to you know, refereeing, coaching, fitness, could be any
Yeah.
path in associated with football or any other sport also. But we want to empower women in all these grounds. So that is where our CSR initiative will come into play, and also in getting access to tier 2 tier 3 city talents. We want to we also know that many tier 2 3 cities in Karnataka, to be very specific, because that's how far we can reach as of now. We have interacted and we see they are not able to come out of their zones to come and play at a Bangalore level. So if you see, most of the Karnataka players are Bangalore. I mean, even if you put a state team together, they're only in Bangalore. So what happens
Yeah.
to the player in Bangalore? What are the player in Belgavi? What happens to the player in Hubli? What happens to the player in Mysore? I have not seen a women Mysore player from Mysore ever. For
Yeah.
long, they have been instances, but I have don't you don't see, being a neighboring city or the closest city, you see more girls playing from Mysore. Why don't they come out? So our next effort is to how to draw them out and how to bring them and create those opportunities. So that is where our CSR and donation activities will kick in to create those opportunities, because like I said earlier, investing in a player costs a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Investing in talent. So that has to be cannot be done by six parents alone. It might
Yeah.
require 600 parents or 6,000 parents to be a part of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's the ecosystem that we are trying to build, through corporate support, through individual support, bringing in like-minded people to invest more or contribute more.
Absolutely. Okay. So I think it's a very comprehensive list of very well thought out plans in women's football, which is a delight to see because as a player growing up, for me, it was mainly just school, district, state, and that's about it. And if you were lucky and you got into a university that had a football team, then I guess you'd play, but otherwise, no. So I think it's very nice to see how the system is changing. So, given that you also come from a motorsport background, has your experience in these different sports influenced your leadership and your partnerships approach in any way in Kemp?
While the knowledge of partnerships are getting, speaking to sponsors, structuring the whole uh, partnership deck or the proposals has purely been from my motorsports background, because there is some amount of understanding of what brands expect, right? There's some amount of, while it is very, it's ever changing, because it depends on many factors. It depends on the market trend, it depends on the financial market, how much fund they have. It depends on, it depends on the social media trend also, if they want to drive more on social media. So there are a lot of dependencies involved. Having said that, ultimately, bottom line of for a brand is to be recalled, right? If someone steps into a store to buy breakfast cereal, they should, how it comes to the top of mind, that you cannot change, right? It's, I mean, even if you bring artificial intelligence, is it going to say as soon as you enter your store, hey, there is a new product available, go pick it up at counter number? It's brand recall. It's a personal choice. I go, I see, and when I see something and I like it, I pick it up. For example, I still remember, uh, there are two, three brands which really fascinated me in motorsports. I mean, when I was young, right? Uh, if you see, Castrol is one brand which was completely built on motorsports. Castrol, everybody knows as a racing brand. I mean, it's a lubricant, but everybody's recall for Castrol lubricant is from motorsports, right? While there were the eras of Marlboros and Rothmans, it's not there anymore. Then came the alcohol, Johnny Walker, and so on. That's also not there anymore because of
Yeah.
the restrictions.
Yeah.
Having said that, there was a brand called Pull and Bear. I didn't know what Pull and Bear was. Do you know what Pull and Bear is?
No, I don't. What is
Okay.
it?
It was a very famous brand on a motorcycle racing team for years, or for at least for 3, 4 years. And that team was also a very good performing team. And so it got real eyeball, right? It forced me to research what pull and bear was. And I'm saying I might not be the only one, right? And specifically if
Yeah.
you're in a country where the pull and bear belongs, you
Yeah.
can easily recollect and recall. So
Yeah.
when I went to Spain, it's an apparel brand in Spain. I bought a pull and bear t-shirt and I bought a pull and bear
Yes.
jeans, right? So they did find a customer who recalled pull and bear when he went to Spain, and he said, "Hey, this is what pull and bear is. Let me buy." You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that still exists, and that will still exist. I mean, how much ever influencers come and association with sports, the eyeballs of sports gets and the recall that sports gets. Repsol, for that example, again a lubricant. Nobody knew Repsol in India unless they partnered with Repsol Honda, right?
Yeah.
So there are so many brands which have come out in the open, and I mean, if you see any today, there is motor vehicle act restriction on putting stickers on cars, but there used to be a time where there used to be unknown stickers on cars. People don't even know what the brand was, but they'll put it because it looks cool, right? So at the
Yeah.
same in the same way, when you see your brand associated not necessarily with your favorite star, but if it's associated with a favorite sport, there is always a easy brand recall. Yeah, I've seen this brand somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely. I think for football, the biggest recall that I have is watching Champions League games and seeing brands like Heineken and any kind of sportwear brand like Adidas, Nike, etc. So
and I believe sportswear also, right?
yeah,
Red Bull is a classic example
yeah,
associated with sports. You can talk about we don't nobody knows what AXA is. I'm sure no Indian everybody will know what AXA is, right?
yeah,
Uh,
because Liverpool wears it on their
yeah,
jersey, right?
so I mean Emirates and all is a known factor, but the recall of saying someone's going to book a flight and then say, and if I'm going to fly that particular sector, they'll automatically say I'll go fly Emirates because my favorite team is using it. So it's an impulsive factor, which few brands really understand that. Kingfisher in India was one brand which again was promoted through sports majority, right? McDowell and Kingfisher.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are ways that you can engage with your audience and make your brand more popular. Unfortunately, because of the split in your marketing in terms of social media and the reach, or the I don't even sometimes feel is the reach true enough in social media. Although you'll say, oh, million engagement, but what is the million engagement given me or transpired into? Uh, that is not there. So that's a big challenge in sports today.
Okay. So let's say now in terms of running the teams itself, right, in Kemp FC, has anything from motorsport and your leadership style of motorsport or experience prior, has it spilled over into the way that you also run the teams?
A lot of it. A lot
Okay.
of it. Yeah. I mean, like I said, for sure, the way I approach the brand presentation to other brands in terms of the proposals, in terms of what are the ways that there's a constant thought process in me of saying what ROI will really interest a brand. That thought process continues in me, and that is come over from motorsports. Even motorsports, how I can give the best ROI for the sponsor who puts the money in, right? Either through digital media or either through brand activations, activities. Um, in terms of innovative ideas that I can present. So that process is carried forward. The second thing, because I have already had the experience of working with champions, developing champions, working with champions, mentoring champions. Um that of course that aspect of it also is carried forward. The way I understand a sports person, what they go through in various scenarios, uh, and that actually has given me a good head start in football also. So for me to understand, even while scouting or while talking to a player, or if the player is having some trouble, how to engage with the player, how to talk to the player. That is one side of it, apart from brand and partnerships, which really gives me a good feeling when I specifically work with players.
Okay, so I think this has been a um, massive, I would say, download of information for me to grasp, and I'm sure for a lot of the viewers and listeners as well. There's a lot to take forward in terms of your vision, and how Kemp has been set up for so many years and what's the way forward. So, as we conclude this, let's talk about the way forward. So, looking ahead, what's your vision for Kemp FC over the next 5 to 10 years? And how do you see the club impacting the women's football landscape in India?
Okay, that's I will take the last question. How will it impact? Because I've already spoken about our vision and direction that we are heading
Yeah,
towards. We'll
yeah,
start with how it the current fabric structure of women's football itself, right? While it is still a very I wouldn't call it in secondary. I think it's third level or fourth level thought process for many in India. Women's football exists, doesn't exist, doesn't matter to many people. Is what the vibe that we get. I have had questions, people asking me questions in forums or and as individual interactions also, asking me questions like, why women's football? Do you think it's no? Why don't you go into men's football, right? As a business. Uh, so which means there is still uh, a, a treatment of women's football which is still at a secondary level stage. So which we want, ideally we will do a lot more activities to bring it as one of the prime sports, at least to the extent of how women's cricket has evolved. uh, while our aim is to create activities or engagements in all those directions, right? I mean, it's going to be a tough task, both in terms of the effort that is involved and the funds that are going to be involved. um, but we will continue to create a lot more touch points. We'll continue to play. Our aim is as a club, so there are definitions for each of our silos, right? As a academy, we want to see it have a wider footprint, at least across Karnataka, and specifically in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and set up an excellence center in the outskirts of Bangalore, which will be the hub for all these talent to pour into, and you create. So when you say the excellence center, it'll not only create football talent, but it'll create coaching talents, it might create referees, it might create
yeah,
fitness physios, whatever. So that excellence hub is one which we need to create, which is very specific to women's. It can be as small as it. Don't look at it as a massive platform. Let's look at it as a sustainable, scalable platform, right? Sustainability and scalability will always remain our core mantra.
yeah,
So, but the idea is to the reach has to be a lot more, a far much better reach. So we will create that platform at the academy level in terms of talent generation. From a consumption point of view, for sure, we want to reach our club as a club where we consume the talent. We will continue to stay in B division, A division, super division. Now we are going to IWL two. In the
Yeah.
next 3 years, at least I would take about 2 years. I would say hopefully 2 to 3 years to get to the IWL level. Give it 2 seasons at least for us to experience IWL two. The third season we'll really put in our efforts to go into IWL. Say fourth year we'll go into IWL and we'll spend another 3 years before we get to AFC. So that path is very clear as far as the club is concerned. So it's a process, and we have to go through that process. The process of victory, the process of loss, the process of uh, failures and successes has to go through as a sporting, and that's needed for a club. You don't want to be winning, 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 and suddenly you realize that okay, one day you lose and you punch your face, right? So that is one, that is your, uh, and we will create a lot more playing opportunities for women through our no foul play shield. That will constantly evolve for sure. And engage with brands in a very, very smart and innovative manner, right? Is not we will change the thought process of a brand towards any sport, at least for us in our topic, women's football. That I think as women's football club, we will do the first step in that also, by giving them very innovative ways of association, and hence giving them the pride and the brand recall to their customers, or satisfaction to their customers for associating with a brand like that. So we will work on that factor. So that is one area we'll surely work on. Finding new
Yeah.
ways to associate a brand and give them a better outlook.
Yeah.
Uh, and in this whole process, like I said, 10 years down the line, when you turn back and see, you would have created so many touch points, a million touch points, a million, thousands of opportunities that you have created, and thousands of platforms that you have created, which in turn are running self-sustained by themselves, like a tournament platform, like academy platform, club platform, community angle, which you're doing community day. That will also should sustain and become an event by itself. So all these ecosystem that we are creating ultimately will should change the way it women's football is looked at in India, and change the way women's football function in India. Maybe we will be a small pixel in the big LED screen somewhere in one corner saying that, hey, that's us who did a change. That's red color in the corner. That's us.
Okay, so I think we now come to the end of the podcast. So this has been a very inspiring last, I would say, 1 hour, 20 minutes almost. I didn't realize time passing. That's how it is when we talk about something we're deeply passionate about. Uh, I do want to end this on one, like you said, learning point. So in the last 3 years of having been associated with Kemp and having learned multiple things, what would you say is the one Achilles heel that Indian women's football currently has?
Thought process.
Thought process, okay. And what do you mean by that?
I think we are treating both men's and women's football in a very same platform. I think women's football is a completely different sport with a
Yeah,
complete different emotion and different way of playing. Right,
yeah,
that's my experience, my personal experience. So I think
yeah,
if you look at women's football differently, and I think keep that as a separate stream with which if it can stay away because it's in its nascent stage and it's in a very good prime
yeah,
stage.
yeah,
If you can nurture it differently, and not the same way that we nurture the men's football,
yeah,
we can nurture it differently with a little bit of taking more risk, being a little more innovative,
yeah,
providing the right nutrition in terms of technology, training platforms, match opportunities. Uh, if that can be created, and that it's going to be a very independent stream. I think every sport does that at some point of time.
yeah,
I think the federation has to look into that factor of saying, hey, this is something which I can mold better than what they already molded football side. And if they look at this as a more moldable platform, this will uh, take off in a different direction altogether, and it'll be a very successful one.
Awesome. So I think that's a fantastic takeaway to end the podcast on. This has been a really, really exciting and fun pilot episode for me. So thank you for being here with us, Mr. Ramji.
Thank you for organizing this, Mithila.